the ones who have been the most guilty of this, and you noticed, or you noted, are the nominal Christians. Those who go maybe to church once in a while, they have the rhetoric, but not the substance. And I thought that was a very important, the way that you separated those two. Elaborate on that for us so that we can help people understand who really is perpetrating this idea of toxic masculinity in our culture today.
Yeah, good. Yeah, that I think that's one of the most interesting findings as well, because one reason we don't know how well Christians are doing is because we all have heard that Christians divorce at the same rate as the rest of the culture. And in my research, I found that that's one of the most widely quoted statistics by Christian leaders. Well, it's not true. But what happened is the sociologists went back to the data. And like you said, they divided out men who are truly authentically Christian and attend church regularly versus nominal Christians. By the way, I have to explain to my students, they don't know what nominal means. It means in name only. N-O-M means name in Latin. And these are men who, in a survey like this, might check the Baptist box, but who in fact go to church rarely, if at all. And they test out shockingly differently. So they test out, their wives report the lowest level of happiness with the way their husbands treat them. They are the least engaged with their children. They have the highest level of divorce, higher than secular men. And the real shocker, they have the highest rate of domestic violence, higher than secular men. And so this is what skews the statistics, because they are out there claiming an evangelical identity. And many studies will put these two groups together, right? They'll just say, oh, well, let's study evangelicals. And so you get, on the one hand, men who are much better than the secular world, and then you have men who are worse than the secular world. So if you put them together, obviously, the statistics are going to be skewed. To quote my go-to sociologist again, Brad Wilcox, who wrote an article on it for Christianity Today. And he said, the most violent husbands in America are nominal Christians who attend church rarely, if at all. And so, and people ask me, well, why do you think they're actually worse than secular men, though? And it appears to be that they pick up the language of headship and submission, but they infuse secular meanings, secular meanings of entitlement and dominance and control and so on. But they're all actually worse than secular men, because then they feel they have religious sanction for it. So I'm very careful to say it's not because of scripture. It's clearly not, because many people will say, well, it's the scripture, it's a scriptural teaching that causes men to be, heartless patriarchs. No, it's the men who are not following scripture, who'll pick up a few phrases and then infuse secular meaning into it. So the important thing for us as Christians is to ask, well, what is the secular meaning then? This is why I wrote the book too. Is you need to have a critical grid of what secularism says about masculinity, so that you don't absorb it unawares. So I agree with you. One of the most striking things to come out of the sociological literature is to help explain that there's very committed Christian men, and then there's nominals. And in America, there's a lot of nominals. There's a lot of cultural Christians. Right? I used to think they were a small group, because you and I probably hang out mostly with committed Christian people. And then I read at least one study said, no, they're about the same size. So you have a 50-50 chance that the person you meet who claims to be evangelical may be just a nominal. And that's an important thing for churches to know, because these men are hanging around the fringes of the Christian church. So how do we minister to them? How do we reach out to them? How do we help them to see that what they're doing is destructive, and they cannot claim that label while living like a secular person?